94.3 WRHD HD1 Farmville, Greenville. Your exclusive Pirate sports station. 94.3 The Game. Do you live ECU? Do you breathe purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
All right, welcome in to today's program. It is Tuesday, May 16th, the edition of Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game. Of course, got a big baseball game coming up later today. ECU takes on Campbell in a top 15 matchup. We talked some football with former ECU coach Steve Logan yesterday, but today we're talking some Pirate basketball. Coach Mike Schwartz is in studio. Coach, how's it going?
It's going great, Stephen, and I want to say first, congratulations. This is absolutely fantastic, man. You've always done such an awesome job in this community, and I just think that this show and this whole experience is great. So congratulations.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. You've been awesome to work with thus far. I know it's just you just wrapped up your first year, but do you feel like you know where everything is now? I mean, 1 year in and a really good year, which we'll get into on the court, but do you feel like you're starting to settle in Greenville, North Carolina?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've started to don't have to put on the maps when I'm driving around anymore. That probably was about halfway through, even getting back to our own house. But, yeah, absolutely, really, family is loving it here and feel like we're just getting very acclimated to the community and learning. And I'm hopeful even this summer, last summer, it's such a whirlwind. Spring and summer, you don't even get to explore a little bit even throughout the town, and then the season comes and you don't get to do that, and then and I know we'll talk about the spring and everything that comes with the spring after the season, but I think now for the first time this 2 or 3 week period leading into summer and this summer, I think we're going to get a chance to really even get to know Greenville better, but it was fantastic in the first year.
And obviously, we got a lot to talk about with off-season editions. The year that was, we are live on YouTube, Facebook. If anybody has any questions, drop them there. We'll get to them for Coach. We also got some on Hoist the Colors on Twitter, so we'll get to that. But let's talk about first off this off-season. It's just crazy. We were talking about it off the air before we started. Just college sports, man. The portal, NIL, has just changed everything in every sport and at every institution. So, what has this off-season been like? Your first, true off-season coming off a year. You had to build your team last year, but, trying to keep your guys, trying to add some pieces. What has it been like these last few months?
Yeah, and I will start off by saying this because there's so much different varying opinions on everything going on, and really it's all positive. The NIL is a huge positive, and all the things that the student athletes are able to take advantage of, it's a huge positive, and it's really long coming. The more the issue that I think has caused, whether it's basketball, football, or any sport, it's the implementation of the NIL plus the play right away, all of those things with probably regulations that nobody really understands very well, and all of that coming together so quickly. I said this to you last year, and I even feel this tenfold right now. The game in the last 2 years, college basketball, has changed more than the 20 years combined previously. Because of those two things, because of NIL and instant eligibility. But with that being said, really wasn't able to predict. Last year at this time, Stephen, I didn't know what it would feel like right now, just because it was such a different feel with coming in. We had guys we were trying to retain from the previous coaching staff. Some guys had left before we even got here. And we were recruiting, and it was recruiting and a retention of a small group of guys that wanted to stay, which I'm so indebted to that group of 6 guys, and we've talked about that. This spring felt a lot different. From the minute that Houston game ended, between recruiting, retention, what did it look like with the portal? What did it look like? What were rosters? Was it going to feel like up until May 11th? Yeah, I think it was different. It was different for everyone across the country, but being our first time going through it here, I definitely will be more prepared and at least be knowing what we're getting into at the end of next season.
We'll talk about some of the newcomers y'all have added. I want to talk about the guys that are returning that you probably had to recruit just as hard, if not harder. I was hearing Ezra Osar. Some teams maybe were trying to tamper with him, but he ends up staying through the portal deadline. And first off, when you got through the portal deadline, which I believe was May 11th?
It was last Thursday evening, 11:59.
Could you at least breathe a sigh of relief a little bit?
Yeah, I think it took me one more night of restless sleep, to be honest with you, because that morning. I think something in the middle of the night I woke up and I said to talk to myself. So, wait, no, it ended last night.
Right.
It ended at 11:59. You can stay asleep for a little bit, but no, obviously, and it's so much more than that. And I think everyone gets caught up with this. Hey, it's normal that people are going to be leaving, and that's not what we want here. And it's never the vibe that was with our team. Were there certain things going on potentially, and in terms of you alluded to Ezra or maybe other situations, but it's really. That was never the focus of our coaching staff and never the focus of our players. We openly spoke about it because when it hit with Javon kind of out of left field right after the season ended, it kind of now was out there. So no one was ducking it. We were able to talk about it. But that being said, it's still a very unique feeling that you're waiting for this 11:59 midnight time to say, okay, we know what the roster is going to look like next year. And that's the biggest thing, Steven, just to know what is the roster going to look like it's hard to plan for summer, what we're going to do in a few weeks, if you're not sure what exactly roster is going to look like. You may not have a guy that you have at that moment, or you may have one or two new guys, because even though the portal closes, recruiting is still wide open,
right.
as you know.
And we talked about the guys returning, or going to talk about the guys returning. I think, obviously, Javon Small moving on. He made that decision not going to Oklahoma State. But you look at I think it's the next 7 of 8 leading scorers, or maybe 6 of 7. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. But really good core returning with multiple years of eligibility remaining. Just when you look at that group, Ezra Asar, R.J. Felton, Quentin DeBoonjay, Ben Baela, Jaden Walker, Brandon Johnson, you got to be pretty thrilled with just that group coming back.
Couldn't be more excited. So fired up and of that returning group. And again, this goes back to that core group of guys last year, R.J. Felton, Brandon Johnson being 2 of those guys that are coming back in terms of guys that stayed from the previous staff, and obviously Luigi and Dave Kasangana, and then you had Winston Tabbs and you had Javon Small. But to have that group of guys coming back, the guys that were here for their first year and the returners in terms of RJ and Brandon, and going into next season, plus what we've added, really, really excited. And, when you can say you returned 5 starters and you lost statistically, on January 11th when Javon went down, statistically he was leading our team and he was obviously our starting point guard. And we went on to win the majority of our conference games after that, and we still returned that whole group. Yeah, I mean, there's so much in front of us. There's such a long way to go, and we've talked about this before. But from being excited and optimistic, looking at what we have coming in on June 4th in terms of the team, yeah, really looking forward to this group.
Visit with the ECU men's basketball coach Mike Schwartz, and let's talk about Ezra. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago, he said he had shoulder surgery, which I didn't even realize. He played the whole year with basically a torn labrum that he said affected his shot. So I know he's rehabbing through that. How much do you think getting back to having a healthy shoulder will help him? And then what's the next step for Ezra?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, it definitely was something that he was dealing with for most of the season, and it impacted him. We give him so much credit in terms of the toughness, the physical toughness, the mental toughness that he showed. He didn't miss practice. I mean, now that he put it out there about what happened in the surgery and having to go through that, you could look back and say, well, I wonder, did he just play in the games? Was he limited in practice? And that was not the case at all. Ezra probably missed more practices for something different, whether it was being under the weather or something like that maybe, and I can't even remember off the top of my head, but I do know he didn't miss any practices because of his shoulder, and that's a testament to him and the toughness that he showed and the resiliency he had. So, yeah, he's going through rehab. I think it's going to be very beneficial for him this summer. When he gets back in June, he'll still be on the tail end of the rehab, and then he'll really be able to pick up and be full swing come July. But he'll be able to do things with the mobility and shooting in June as we build up to that. And that will honestly lead to where we think he'll have the most improvement in his game going into next year. And even if his shoulder wasn't hurt, there would still need to be vast improvement on his perimeter game and shooting the basketball. That was something he wanted coming out of high school. It just wasn't able to really take its full course this first year because of that shoulder. And I think we will see, I think there's a couple things. You'll see an improved perimeter game in terms of shooting the basketball. I think you'll see a continued improvement handling the basketball. We always knew Ezra could handle the ball, but decision-making as you go from your freshman year to your sophomore year, passing the ball. Just the fundamental of passing the ball. Not only the decision part, but being able to execute that pass. So I think that's going to be a big area. And then, believe it or not, as well as Ezra finished, particularly in the second half of conference play around the basket, when his shoulder is hopefully perfectly healthy and strong, I think it's going to help his finishing above the rim and his ability because of range of motion and where his shoulder can be as he's shooting the basketball around the basket, because that's never easy for, in that physical contact in there.
I know you guys are hoping even for more growth from R.J. Felt and Brandon Johnson as well, who were two cornerstones last year. And, we mentioned Jaden Walker, who now has the ability to play on the point, off the point, maybe even the forward if you guys go small. So when you look at that group and kind of the versatility it brings, I guess what gives you the most comfort there with kind of that group of guys who have now played quite a bit of college basketball who are going to help lead your group?
Yeah, you said it. The word versatility is huge. I mean, if you think about it, Jaden Walker ended the year as our starting point guard. He started the season as our starting four-man. R.J. Felton ended the season as our starting two, and he was our starting four for a different part of the season when we were playing a little bit more of a small ball lineup. But really, when I think of those three guys that you just talked about, I think about R.J. Felton, just the heart and soul of this team in so many different areas. What he does as a player on offense, what he does as a player on defense, what he does statistically, the stuff that doesn't get measured just in terms of physicality, resiliency, heart, tenacity, all those things that he brings. And then, by the way, he's just the most incredible teammate and locker room guy, and he holds that locker room together. So just so excited about RJ and his improvement, not only physically that he's going to have, and he will be able even to play more of that natural position at the two more this year, because I think we've increased, whether it be size, whether it be experience in the front court, so he may not have to slide up towards that. He actually started to play the point guard late in the season, so that was big for him. But then the leadership of what you said, somebody that coming off a freshman year, didn't play quite as much, obviously didn't have the statistical impact that he had this past year, and now what he's going to be in terms of the experience and leadership part, I think it's going to go to another level. And then Brandon and Jaden, the same thing. Last year when we got here, we knew we were going to be young, and we said that we're going to be young. We knew we were going to be young and inexperienced. The goal in year one was to put ourselves in a position to still be young, but with great experience. And I think, at least from that perspective, that we checked that box, that we were able to gain great experience, return a vast majority of it, but we're still young, as you alluded to, because Brandon, Jaden, RJ, all juniors. Ezra, a sophomore. Quentin DeBunje, a junior. Ben Biella, a junior. Even the incoming guys, juniors. Cam Hayes will be a junior. Bobby Pettiford Jr. Will be a junior. And then you added a couple freshmen, 3 freshmen that will obviously be freshmen. So the experience piece is big, Stephen.
And we've talked about, since your arrival, everybody makes such a big deal about the portal, and for good reason, because sometimes you can get a guy from the portal and he can't really transfer out if he's going to be a second-time transfer unless he's a grad. But you really still want to hone in on high school recruiting. That's a big part of your backbone, much like with Mike Houston on the football side and other coaches, ECU Cliff Galvin's the same way. So 1 year in, do you still feel good about that plan and, basically how you can build your program that way?
Yeah, definitely feel good about the plan. Definitely feel very confident and just strong about us wanting to stay down that path. But I'm not going to lie to you. We did learn, and we have been able, our eyes have been opened a little bit to say, okay, when you do recruit a freshman, there's some real pieces that you have to dive into and vet to make sure that it's the right freshman for a number of reasons. Everyone thinks it's only because, well, if you don't play, maybe you transfer. Well, it's also what we know and we've seen across the country. You play and you do more than expected, and now the portal becomes something that you have to deal with. So looking at incoming freshmen, looking at their desire to be developed, their desire to say, you know what, this is where I want to be. I want to graduate from ECU, or I want to be here. This is where I want to be until I have an opportunity to maybe become a professional or take the next step. Those are things you have to vet a little bit sooner now, as opposed to in the past. That didn't come up in the conversation nearly as much. Hey, what's it going to be like if you don't play this year? If you don't see it, do you see a 1 or 2 year plan for yourself? Or vice versa, if you do something that you don't expect and you're an all-conference player, you can have those conversations on the front end now. But as far as philosophy and wanting to build a program versus just a year-to-year team, not changing that at all. We are going to utilize the portal. We have. And we're going to be smart about the high school players that come in that we know they want to be here as much as we want them here.
We're visiting with Mike Schwartz. Let's get our first break in. We'll get into some of the questions we've got on social media. We'll also talk about the newcomers that have been added this offseason. You're listening to Hoist the Colours on 94.3 The Game.
Greenville's premier Uptown Concert Series returns.
Concert on the Comet.
This year's acts include beach music legends, the Band of Oz, May 25th.
For more details and a full lineup of bands, go to concertonthecommon.org.
Greenville's premier Uptown Concert Series returns.
Concert on the Comet.
This year's acts include Landslide, a tribute to Fleetwood Mac, June 8th.
For more details and a full lineup of bands, go to concertonthecommon.org.
Here's some great news from the Seahorse Restaurant in Greenville. People have been coming for the prime rib on Saturday nights forever, but guess what? Due to the large demand, Danny has expanded prime rib to Thursday and Friday nights as well for a limited time. So now get the best prime rib you've ever tasted 3 nights a week at the Seahorse, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday starting at 5 p.m. till closing or until they run out. You can now have the famous Seahorse prime rib individually or for 2, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for a limited time at the Seahorse on Stantonsburg Road across from the hospital.
If you've been injured in an accident and need cash now before your case settles, Oasis Financial can help. Last month, Oasis helped over 3,000 people. Why not you? If you have an attorney, call Oasis Financial today at 877-266-9107. It takes just 3 minutes to apply, and once you're approved, get $500 to $100,000 of your settlement in as little as 24 hours with no risk to you. That's right, get $500 to $100,000 within 1 day. If you lose your case, you don't have to pay Oasis back, ever. So call Oasis today to see if you qualify at 877-266-9107. That's 877-266-9107.
Better days start today. Get the cash you need with Oasis.
Call Oasis today at 877-266-9107. Oasis is currently not providing legal funding in Arkansas, Kansas, Kentucky, Maryland, North Carolina, North Dakota, or West Virginia.
Greeting friends of Eastern North Carolina. If you're looking for a great place to work with competitive pay and a multitude of advanced opportunities, Pitt County Schools is hiring. We employ over 3,500 people, and we're one of the largest employers in Pitt County. We are currently seeking teachers, bus drivers, school nutrition personnel, facilities staff, custodians, clerical staff, and more. We offer advanced leadership opportunities to our educators and competitive pay for our skilled labor force. If you want to be part of a thriving school system that focuses on educating students, growing our employees, and promoting positive mental and physical health habits, we encourage you to become a part of our Pitt County Schools family to help ensure success for the future of Eastern North Carolina. To fill out an application, visit our website today at pittschools.org. That's pittschools.org. And remember, education is truly a team effort. Pitt County Schools. Live and lead.
What's happening?
Tell me what's happening. Every ECU fan's one stop for all things ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colours with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back into the program. Hoist the Colours on 94.3 The Game. We got Mike Schwartz, ECU men's basketball coach, in studio. We're going to talk about the newcomers. I want to ask you first, Coach, a question from Christian online. He wants to know if Coach Schwartz is going to be at the baseball game tonight, and if so, I'm going to be in the stands tonight. I guess he's going to cheer on the Pirates with you. I don't know if you got anything going on or not.
We have already talked about it in the household. We will be at the baseball game tonight. That is,
there you go.
Yes, last home game of the year, barring anything that we get in the postseason, which would be fantastic, again, to continue that run. But we will be there. I think Pirate Nation knows I'm an avid baseball fan. Coach Godwin, I love baseball, and we've been to games here recently, but we'll be at the last one tonight.
Awesome. So check out Coach Schwartz. I see you roaming the concourse quite a bit with all your assistants, so it's fun to see you out there.
Well, honestly, if it was up to me, I'd have my mitt waiting to catch a foul ball. That's my kids kind of get upset at me when I bring the mitt. They tell me that you can't do that anymore. I said, no, sure you can. I want a foul ball.
You're never too old to take the mitt to the game. You can do it. But let's get into some of these newcomers, guys. We'll start with the freshmen. or the transfers, excuse me, then we'll go to the freshmen. So Bobby Pettiford and Cam Hayes, the two transfer guards. We'll start with Bobby Pettiford coming from Kansas, and I remember ECU recruited him originally hard out of high school, but obviously your staff getting him back to North Carolina. Just take us through the recruiting process and what you see from Bobby Pettiford coming from Kansas.
Well, number one, just so excited about Bobby and his family, from the Durham area, North Carolina, high school player. And I think, Stephen, just how strong we feel as a coaching staff about wanting to recruit this state, particularly the eastern part of this state, but just this state as a whole in terms of building this program with North Carolina kids and families. Bobby, when we lost Javon, we knew, signing a point guard and going and get an experienced point guard was really paramount for us. We wanted to go do that. And, Bobby went in the portal, and our coaching staff did an incredible job of just getting on it right away. And he became priority number one right from the minute that we made contact with him. Bobby is an incredible person. He's a natural leader. He's a natural point guard. The experience that he has had for Coach Self at Kansas, and he's won a national championship. He played a good amount this year, and he played as a freshman, albeit like most freshmen. There's many freshmen out there that played a lot less than he did as a freshman on the national championship team at Kansas. And his sophomore year he played, and we just feel very fortunate that we're going to be able to have a point guard here with great experience, great talent, unbelievable teammate. He's already started to connect with not only incoming guys after he signed in terms of Cam Hayes and talking with him and wanting. That's what great players do, Stephen. They want to bring other great players. And we have RJ does that with our team. Brandon does that. Ezra does that within our team. And when Bobby came on board, he made it clear right away, that's what we want to do. We want to build something special here. And as a point guard, he knows he wants to try and surround with other great players. And it didn't matter if it was another guard like Cam Hayes, who's not necessarily, it's not about is he the same position or not. He knew Cam Hayes is a great teammate and a great player, another North Carolina kid from the Greensboro area, and he was excited, and he was very active in trying to help him come here.
I remember talking to Bobby after he committed, and one of the first things he said was, we're not done. And basically he was trying to recruit for you guys. And, Bobby, his shooting percentages weren't outstanding at Kansas, but he kind of told me he feels like if he gets his confidence back, he can shoot it, at that high clip. Do y'all believe that as well, along with his, ability to get downhill and drive?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I say that it's a very fragile thing when you think about confidence and shooting percentages and things like that. I mean, the smallest thing can alter. I'll give you an example. Brandon Johnson is shooting over 40%. RJ Felton is shooting nearly 40% for most of non-conference play and even the beginning of conference play. Season ends, Brandon's around 34%. I think RJ was 33% from three, somewhere in that range, 33 to 34%. But something as simple as Javon Small going out, a guard that did a great job getting guys shots and getting them open looks, missing one extra shot per game or having to take one late shot clock shot because the ball's in your hand as opposed to being in Javon's hand, can alter that percentage. So you can look at it so many different ways in terms of Bobby's percent. Bobby's a good shooter, and he's going to shoot the ball well here. He's going to be an extremely confident player here. Not only does he know he's going to be able to shoot the ball here, and we need him to be aggressive on offense, he is going to help Brandon, RJ Felton, and other guys get great looks. So really confident and excited about his ability to score. I know maybe that wasn't on full display his first couple years, but he is a true point guard that can score and can get easy baskets for other guys because of the way he can push the ball, the way he can get in the paint and create. And, Stephen, as much as anything, I think he's going to be an elite defender. I think he's somebody that's really going to be able to disrupt the ball, which is important to our system.
Cam Hayes, another guy who can really defend on the perimeter, also can play, on the ball, off the ball, do a little bit of everything. So take us through the recruiting process of Cam Hayes, played at NC State. I know you guys maybe wanted him last go around, but you get him this time.
Yeah, Cam Hayes, this is really a unique story, and I feel like I've known Cam Hayes for years, which is really interesting. I was recruiting a player when I was assistant at Tennessee named Josiah James, and I was recruiting him, and he was maybe a junior for an AAU team, and he played off the circuit. He didn't play on the shoe circuit. So it was a small gym in Spartanburg, and it wasn't many coaches there. I was watching Josiah one evening, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, there's the next great point guard in North Carolina. And he pointed to Cam Hayes. And Cam Hayes was playing the game, and Cam was just a freshman at the time. He was young. And so I saw Cam play that day. Fast forward a couple years, we're recruiting him at Tennessee. We're recruiting. It doesn't end up working out. He goes to NC State. Fast forward a couple years, we're here last spring. And in fact, Cam Hayes was the very first student-athlete recruit, so to speak, that I ever met with as the head coach at ECU. The first day that the opened up where you could have contact last year after I'd been here, we went down and met, Coach Morton and I met with Cam Hayes. And we really did want him to come last year. I mean, we were very active, and it just didn't work out, and he went to LSU. And I guess third time's the charm, but very excited about Cam. He's a great, the character piece of all these guys. If you came in our practice facility, you would see the first word up on the wall is character. And when I think about Bobby Pettiford Jr., I think about Cam Hayes, the two that we've spoken about so far, just such high character guys that you want around your team. They're going to uplift your team. They're going to put their arms around guys, whether they're an incoming, new guy or that's how they are. That's their personality. Great families. They've both been very well coached in high school and coming from programs of getting really well coached in terms of college. So really excited about both guys. I tell you, Stephen, one of the things that we're excited about, can both play off ball screens. They can both play off ball screens. They can both make reads off ball screens, shooting, passing. And I think, as you know, you watch our offense, we're a heavy ball screen team.
Cam Hayes, second time transferring, so I believe he may need a waiver. What's kind of the thought process there? Any idea if he'll get one or not?
Just an unknown. Yeah. Honestly, that's an unknown entity right now. Don't know it. We did speak about it, though, when he came with that, hey, you just don't know what's going to happen. So there's that process where you could play right away, and there's also the potential that, like second-time transfers have sat out. So we don't know, but the great thing about Cam and his family is that there's no false, really, what's supposed to happen. They say, hey, whatever happens is supposed to happen, and they're good with both. And obviously, we're hopeful that he'll be able to play.
Any timeline on that, or is it just you just don't know?
You just don't know. I think there's so much stuff going on. I don't have the necessary direct knowledge about it. I think these processes do take a while, to be honest, from my limited experience with them. 2-time transfers with the transfer portal and immediate eligibility. This is all a new thing just over the last couple of years. So I think that's a little bit, a little down the line.
Kason on YouTube, he has a question about just kind of the potential that you guys could be guard heavy with, Bobby and Cam if he's eligible to play right away, and also RJ, kind of determining how to get those guys on the court at the same time, and also Jaden, does he move to more of a, wing type role potentially, if Cam plays, if Bobby plays, if you have, Caleb LeCount, obviously another point guard as well.
Well, this is what I would say to that my philosophy on offense is, and I think people have watched us play, and it was really good to us late in the season, is we rebound the basketball and we go. So the ball doesn't have to be in the point guard's hands every time in transition. So if you take that one step back, defense is really where we want to be able to build the foundation of our program, which means we're getting stops, hopefully creating turnovers, but we're getting stops and rebounding the ball. We were a pretty solid rebounding team this year for really being undersized. We ended up leading the conference in offensive rebounding, and we want our defensive rebounding even to get to the next level, obviously. But point being is this: we will have no problem playing 3 guards on the court at the same time, and we think that's going to make us more dynamic on offense because it's the ability to play in transition. We really want to play in transition. We were at our best when we were in transition. Jaden Walker, in fact, is probably a better transition point guard than he is a half-court point guard. So whether you have Bobby, RJ, Cam, Jaden all on the floor at the same time, or some combination of that, or Quentin or Caleb, you can have 2 to 3 point guards on the court at any time. And honestly, some of the best teams, and where I came from at Tennessee, the year that we won the SEC championship, had Zakai Ziegler and Kennedy Chandler on the court at the same time. So we're actually really looking forward to having that ability. We saw what it felt like right after Javon went down, when Caleb was still trying to figure it out, Jaden was still trying to figure it out at that position. We saw what it felt like when you don't have enough point guards and ball handling, and we are just hopeful that it will be the opposite this year.
And a few freshmen you guys signed as well. And the more people I talk to, the more have positive things to say about Takori Faison. And I know y'all feel like y'all maybe got a steal there. You know, you talk about high school recruiting. Maybe he gets overlooked out of Goldsboro. So what do you like out of Takori?
Well, he's a college-ready athlete, college-ready body right now, and it's just natural. I don't think he's had the luxury or the resources just to really be in a weight room and work the way he's going to when he gets here on June 4th. So as a basketball player, just his physicality, his athleticism is really about as high as anyone on the team, you know, and you can't imagine a freshman having more of that no matter what level. The other thing that people don't realize, he can really shoot the basketball. He can really shoot the ball. Now, how that translates to him early in his career, obviously that's yet to be seen. But he can really shoot the basketball, and it's really a natural touch that he has. I think going through our player development program, being able to put those reps in and put the time in and having access to our practice facility is only going to enhance that. But naturally, he can shoot the ball better than I think a lot of people realize. And Takori is he's an unbelievable kid. He's a quiet, humble, he's a really simple, just a simple guy that is excited about his opportunity to be here at ECU, and that goes a long way. It isn't just what the basketball piece is, but TK is somebody that is fired up to be here. He's been on campus a few times since he committed. He actually just did his official visit a couple weeks ago, and Takori is going to, really be a fan favorite here, and we're excited about him.
Yeah, Eastern North Carolina kid, staying home. You always love to see that. So great job by the staff and you guys doing that. And then two big guys. Another guy from in-state, Callum Richard, coming in as a signee, and also Sear Malonga out of Kentucky. Can you walk us through the scouting report on those two bigs?
Yeah, both legitimate size. I would say both between 6'10 and 6'11. Right in that 230 mark. We saw Callum a little bit more recent than we saw Sear, but basically you got to have two incoming true centers that are coming in with different games. Sear right now is a little bit more athletic, a little bit more defensive and rebounding oriented, play above the rim, maybe more of an airspace guy. And then you have Callum that is also really good on defense, a little bit more skill back to the basket. That's where he has been able to create some separation in his high school career and why his recruiting where it was as opposed to Sear's where his was. I mean, Sear had really high recruitment. Callum had really strong recruitment. Callum probably a little bit more skilled. Sear a little bit more maybe athletic above the rim, airspace, and defensive presence-wise. But I'll say this about both guys that, I had seen Sear quite a few years ago. I had watched Sear play, and Sear is just scratching the surface of what he's going to be capable of. A lot of it is going to be his development on offense and his development in the skill back to the basket. Callum, I watched Callum last summer, and it was our first summer out as a coaching staff. Jake Morton, Nick Matson, Riley Davis, and we all watched him very closely because we knew about him, and we loved him. But we didn't have a real grasp of what we had here. We had just got here. We were going into the summer. The guys had not got on campus yet. And so now when you're trying to evaluate, okay, I hadn't had a chance to coach Luigi DeBow. I hadn't had a chance to coach Ezra yet. You just don't know so we didn't go full in last summer the way that in retrospect I would have. But things work out. He was recruited. He ended up signing at ETSU for someone I have great respect for, Desmond Oliver, who I worked with at Tennessee. And he's a great evaluator of talent. And they were very, very excited about him. And all year we knew, but he signed it early. So in November, his recruitment kind of shut down because he signed. And when it happened to reopen, we were very active getting involved as quick as we could.
So 5 incoming scholarship guys along with the returners, and we'll talk more about the returning roster. Also get to your questions on social media on the other side. Let's get our second break in. You're listening to Hoist the Colours on 94.3 The Game. We'll be right back.
I'm in the studio with my friend Sproul Alexander, who is the Senior Vice President for Town Insurance. And Sproul, people keep coming to Town Insurance. Tell us why.
Henry, it's really simple. It's because of our insurance knowledge, our product choices, our ability to service our clients, and our community involvement.
That's true. We see town insurance everywhere. But now let's talk about the choices. What kind of choices are there? What kind of insurance do you handle for people?
Our choices are endless. No matter what kind of insurance that you may need, we can handle it for you.
And we're talking about business, we're talking about health insurance, we're talking about home and auto, the whole gamut.
Yes, sir.
All right, so folks, come to town. That's Town Insurance. And tell us the telephone number they can reach you.
252-756-8300.
And the website?
Towninsurance.com, town with an E.
Got to put that E on the town. Folks, now is the time to come to town. Town Insurance.
Live life to the fullest. You hear that all the time, but it's easier said than done when you're in pain, right? Patrick Johnson here, QC Kinetics, in the business of giving people back their quality of life and providing much-needed relief for chronic joint pain. And it's not just providing that relief, but doing it in the most non-invasive way possible, using regenerative treatments from your body's own natural biologics. Where is your joint pain? In your knees, hips, shoulders, or back? Well, QC Kinetics concentrates these impactful treatments right at the source of your pain, directly applying healing properties where you need them the most. And best of all, you walk into the office and walk right out after treatment. There's no surgery, no downtime, and patients are raving about the results. So what does living life to the fullest look like for you? Finally being able to play golf, hike, walk your dog, enjoy time with your family. Get started today with a call to QC Kinetics for your complimentary consultation. 252-765-PAIN. That's 252-765-PAIN.
Hello, Eastern North Carolina. I'm Matt Murchison here at Greenville Nissan. I'm along with Scotty.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
I'm well, buddy. How are you?
Man, this is awesome day.
It is. We got a great selection of inventory with some great specials going on.
We really do. We have something that we don't normally have over the last 3 or 4 months,
That's
Matt.
right.
We have Nissan Sentras in stock, which is plenty to choose from. Folks, they're not going to last very long, and I'm going to give you a couple reasons why. One, supply and demand. There aren't many of them out there. We're blessed to have some. Two, you're going to get more money for your trade right now than you ever have, even through the last 3 years of COVID. It's because of supply and demand. Matt, I know there's a lot of things you can tell us right now about lease payments.
Oh, yeah. We got a great lease special right now going on with the Sentra. We got a $0 down, $269 lease special right now going on the Sentra. We got a great lease special on the Rogue right now. No money down, $375 right there. The Pathfinder, no money down, $395. The Maxima, no money down, $375. It's a great time to come take advantage of these lease specials. Check out our website, GreenvilleNissan.com. Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Leases are 10,000 mile, 18 months, must pay tax, tag, title, and dock fee. See dealer for details.
We're live with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colours.
All right, welcome back into the program. Visiting in studio with Mike Schwartz. We've already covered a lot. This will be archived on podcast, also YouTube and Facebook, so check it out if you've missed any. But we'll get to more of your questions on social media here in a little bit. But, Coach, we've been talking about the returners. One guy, we really need to highlight, Brandon Johnson, just because of the way he grew. And I remember one of the first times I spoke to you last offseason, you were like, we need Brandon to shoot the ball. And he's shot the ball quite well. So just talk about his development and how key he is to your playing going forward.
Yeah, Brandon's so instrumental to our team in so many different ways. His versatility is, you think about Brandon, the amount of minutes that he played, the rebounding he did. We asked him to score in the paint, defend the other team's post player, and then also score the way he scored and keep the floor spaced the way he did as one of our best three-point shooters. And just so proud of Brandon. He really is a leader on this team. He stands for everything that we want in terms of always puts the team first. Brandon's a quiet guy. He's always putting the team first. And I think about the way Brandon worked last summer, preseason. It showed during the year. He was 3 for 14 from three his freshman year. In his first game against Mercer, he hit 3 threes this year. And we talked about it. You and I actually, they said, Brandon's going to surprise people how he shoots the ball. We could see it. And the way he worked this spring, just so proud. He did it all year, even throughout the year, but 7:30 in the morning, all season long. But this spring, he even took it to another level. And the kind of spring that Brandon had, he's setting himself up for a great summer and the opportunity for his game to continue to grow away from the basket even more, offensively and defensively. And we need Brandon to be another real leader for us next year. But just really proud of Brandon.
Yeah, another big-time returner and one of your top scorers, so definitely looking forward to seeing what Brandon can do as he continues his development. All right, let's get into some of these questions, Coach. Scheduling questions are the favorite from the fan base. I believe so. UNCW and South Carolina, they're coming back next year, right?
Yes,
for
they
home
will
games
be here
Minges.
in Minges. Yes.
Any other? I think I've seen y'all tied to maybe a MTE somewhere as well. Is that still ongoing or still in the process? Any other nuggets you can share?
Yeah,
on
scheduling. So I wish we could just talk about everything, to be honest, because there's so much on the table right now. And at this time last year, we had one game scheduled. It was that Old Dominion game that was from the previous contract.
Yeah.
You know, at this point this year, we know we're playing South Carolina this year in Minges. We know we're playing Wilmington in Minges. We're going into next year. We're going to Columbia, and Wilmington will be coming into Minges for a second year in a row. So we know for 2 years we have games on the docket. And there are, to be quite honest, there's probably a half a dozen games that we could go back to the office right now, and maybe if the contract signed, we could talk about it. But you really can't just until that stuff is final. As far as MTEs and these tournaments go, there's 3 that we are potentially. There's a couple different scenarios. We're also looking at playing in a high-level neutral site game against hopefully a Power 5 opponent, whether an ACC opponent, SEC opponent, in a neutral site, kind of like we did last year in Greenville with South Carolina, but it would be something different. It's just what happened is, as we started this conversation before, the portal closes 11:59 last Thursday. And what everybody does is they want to see what rosters look like. So it's hard to make great strides in scheduling prior to the portal closing. Nick Mattson handles our scheduling, and I tell you, he's the best in the country. Our whole staff, Jake Morton, Riley Davis, and Nick Mattson, and what they do for our program, and Jesse Higdon, who we've talked about, but what Nick has done with scheduling to have us in a position where maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks we can have the whole schedule complete, even though you couldn't really get a lot of stuff signed prior. We want to see who other teams have.
Right.
Other teams are a little bit hesitant to sign up for not just us, but anybody, because they, well, what's the roster going to look like? Now, it can still change, but when you look at a roster and you say, well, they have 13 scholarship guys, you know likelihood is they're not going to be adding. Last year when we signed to play Coppin State, a few weeks after we signed, Sam Sessoms, the leading scorer in the nation, signed with them, transferring from Penn State. But when we signed the contract to play, we had no idea he was there. So it is a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle as you get to this time of year, but definitely South Carolina, definitely Wilmington coming into Minges. We have an A10, an Atlantic 10 home-and-home series that we're starting this year. We're going to start on the road, so there'll be another Atlantic 10 team come into Minges next year. And we're just going to continue to build a strong non-conference schedule.
And that kind of goes in line with this next question from Chess Pirate on Hoist the Colours. He says, interest in continuing home-and-home series with like ODU, and he mentions A10 schools like Richmond, VCU, George Mason, and also JMU. Like, is that, up your alley in terms of could you potentially see one of those teams?
What was the name of this gentleman? Who said this?
His username's Chess Pirate. His real name is Dave, I believe.
Well, Dave, you just mentioned 4 schools, and one of the 4 he just said is that A10 team. So there you go. So now, and really JMU is not an A10 team, so now you're one of 3.
There you go.
We have one that we're going to get going with one of those, and so we're excited about that. The ODU series, I think, is a great series. So much respect for their program and their coaching staff. There's a lot of things you have to fit in that. The availability of gym, dates, obviously we have the women's schedule, you have Saturday football games at home, and really, we can't host a game on a Saturday at home. So there are a few different things that you got to plug together. Right now, there's nothing on the docket that we have with ODU, but we are going to get that Atlantic 10 series started, and we're really excited about it. I think it's going to be great for both fan bases. That neutral game and that MTE, I think, are going to be very exciting for our program as well.
Berg Pirate says, what are the, quote, daily vitamin workouts that players have mentioned? So, yeah, just talked to one of the recruits y'all committed. He kind of mentioned one of the things that interested him the most was the daily vitamins program that y'all kind of talked about as far as development.
Well, really what this is something that I learned from Coach Barnes, and it goes back to when I was a player for him. And I said this last year. I said this even in my very early when I became the head coach here, was that the backbone, the foundation of our program is going to be based on player development, on and off court, but pertaining to this is the on-court player development. Our coaches spend a lot of time. I go back with talk about Riley Davis and Nick Mattson and Jake Morton and our whole staff. We have a player development staff as well. Just the amount of time that our coaching staff spends with our players, watching film on the court with them, and we incorporate it as part of our routine. So this is outside of practice, but this is where our guys have an opportunity to be on the court or in the film room working with coaches on getting better. And it's something that when we talk about a daily vitamin, I think we would all say if you took a vitamin 3 days a week, you're just not going to get the same effect. If you took it for 2 months out of the year and then you stop for 2 months, you're just not going to get the same effect. So just the mindset of that daily vitamin is it's an everyday thing. And then as you do it, you start to see results, and hopefully, you get better. And that's what we thought happened with our guys. It's something that we do throughout the year, in season, out of season. It'll start again this summer, and it's something we take great pride in, and our guys do. And that's the most important part, is that our guys really take pride in it.
All right, let's get our final break in, then we'll come back, get to more of your questions, wrap up the show as we continue on with Mike Schwartz on Hoist the Colours. We'll be right back.
It's game day, Pirate Nation. It may be the final chance for you to see your Pirates live in action in Greenville this season.
This is the Pirate Report on 94.3 The Game. Sponsored by the IBX Pirate Partners, Moore's Old Time Barbecue Chicken and Seafood, Fantastic Sam's Cut and Color, and Carib Sea and Emerald Isle.
The Pirates are taking on the Fighting Camels of Campbell today at Clark LeClaire Stadium, and it is the final scheduled home game for 2023. Coach Godwin acknowledged this on Sunday after the game and said he wants Pirate Nation in full force for tonight's contest.
It is, Coach O, but I'm going to enjoy this. It's the last guaranteed game that we have at home, so I hope Pirate Nation comes out and flocks and just is really loud on Tuesday night because it's the last guaranteed home game that we have.
Of course, with the way the Pirates have been playing, postseason baseball here in Greenville is still something that is very much on the table, but it is never a guarantee. So get on out tonight to watch the Pirates take on the Camels. And if you can't get out there, be sure to tune in right here on 94.3 The Game as Scott Scooter Rogers and Coach O will be on the call for the final home game of the 2023 regular season. That'll do it for your 94.3 The Game Pirate Report. I'm Philip Pilkington.
Hear 94.3 The Game anytime on the IBX Media app.
Is it free?
Yes.
The only app you need. I love the app.
Download it for free in the App Store or Google Play and get to your favorite radio station in 2 clicks. All your sports, music, talk, and podcasts, including the latest from Steve and I Go at Hoist the Colours and year-round coverage from the East Carolina Sports Network. Listen live anytime, anywhere to ENC Radio's best.
I always listen.
Download the app.
The IBX Media app.
Chico's Mexican Restaurant is where the fiesta never ends. Grab your amigos and head to Chico's every Wednesday for shrimp tacos for $11.99. Plus Wednesdays means all Mexican imports for just $2.99. Thursdays, enjoy your favorite beef, chicken, or vegetable fajitas for only $11.99. For Mexican food and fun, it's got to be Chico's Mexican Restaurant in downtown Greenville and online at chicosrestaurant.com. Chico's, where the fiesta never ends.
Need $1,000 to $10,000 immediately for a gift for someone special, car repairs, or unexpected expenses? Time Financing Service offers competitive loan rates. Apply online and get your answer in less than an hour in most cases. Then you can pick up the cash at any of our 24 convenient locations. Apply online 24/7 at timefinancing.com. That's timefinancing.com.
Time Financing Service.
All loans subject to current credit policy of Time Financing Service. 1-hour loan approval and same-day cash in most circumstances. Exceptions may apply.
Here there be pirates. Back to Hoist the Colours with Steve and I Go. How good is this on 94.3 The Game?
All right, welcome back into the program. Final segment. This has been a ton of fun with Coach Schwartz. We're rolling through your questions. And one on social media, Coach, from Twitter, the Minji's Maniacs, they want to know your honest opinion on them. So what is your take on the ECU student section?
Love it. I love it. I tell you, from the first game, Mercer, all the way to our last home game where we had Tulane in there, I believe was our last home game. Incredible. I mean, just every single game, the students brought it. The Minji's Maniacs brought it. I love being able to connect with them on my way out of the building, especially after a win. It wasn't quite as fun, obviously, when we weren't able to win. But I just think that Minji's Coliseum or arena, it just has the ability to be one of these really, really environments that is very difficult to play in. And I think they're a huge piece of it. And to be quite honest, I think the best part is that every time when an opponent comes in, that they make their life miserable. They make their life miserable from the time they walk on the court in warm-ups, during the game, and, even on their way out of the building. I'm okay with that, too. But I thought they did that, and I loved it. It was fantastic atmosphere, and they were a big part of it.
The best part about Minji's is, the low roof, and the students are right on top of you, and it only really takes – we were talking after the Houston game. It doesn't have to be at max capacity, and you're like, hey, we need fans to show up to watch the Pirates, not just watch Houston, which was ranked number 1 at the time. But that game – kind of shows what Minji's can be at its peak.
Oh, absolutely. And there were several games like that where it felt like that. I mean, that Cincinnati game at home was really a great atmosphere in there, and obviously just honoring and respect for Jeff Charles. But I said this, that is one of the special things about ECU, is I think that Pirate Nation comes to watch the Pirates. They come to watch East Carolina. I don't think Pirate Nation looks at the schedule. I think everyone does that. I think that's natural when there's a high-level game or a high-level opponent. But that's what's so awesome about this place. That's what's so awesome about the Minji's Maniacs and the student section and all our fans, that consistently I think they look and they say they want to know what the date of the game is and the time of the game is, not who the opponent is. And that's what made this place so awesome this year. And I know we have to do our part. We have a long way to go to get it where it can feel like that every night that it did versus Houston. And it doesn't matter if it's Houston, we can make that place feel like that if it's Houston Baptist coming in here. And that's the goal, because we do have that special environment, an intimidating place to play when it's like that. And I wish we could have put two halves together like we did in the second half with Houston, but we just couldn't get it going in the first half enough. But a big part of that was, I know our guys, they were so amped up with that atmosphere, and they said it after. And once they settled down a little bit into it, but you know what? If we get that thing like that 15, 20 times a year, they'll be used to playing in it like that, and the only people that will be rattled will be the opponent.
There's no doubt. I remember back in the early 2000s when I was much younger, and teams like Marquette, Louisville were rolling in, and it was a madhouse every night, which part of it was the conference, but even when St. Louis and DePaul came in, it would be a madhouse. So it was just like, yeah, Minji's can be a special place, and I think you guys establishing the program you're establishing is well on its way to bringing that back, especially coming off the year you guys have with what's returning. A few more questions. We'll get you out of here, Coach. So one fan wanted to know, and this is an interesting question. Obviously, Team Boneyard's done an awesome job in the NIL space on the donor side. He says, do you have any sense of where ECU stands in the NIL space compared to like other teams in the American, or is that kind of hard to, specifically point out?
I think it's a great question. It's the kind of question, believe me, that coaches we're trying to figure out all the time. But it's very hard to know the concrete answer to that. It's just so difficult with this very loose regulations of NIL in terms of just there's nothing form-fitting to how it works in terms of with the school, the NCAA. It's just hard to determine what is reality and what isn't. I know this from Team Boneyard's perspective, we are so appreciative of what they do and all of the supporters of NIL for our student athletes, not only for men's basketball, but for all the ECU student athletes. We're so appreciative of it because it's such a big deal, and it really is prevalent right now in recruiting and retention. And what I mean by from recruiting is recruits are paying attention to what the collectives and to what current student athletes, what contracts they have earned or have the ability to earn as current student athletes as they're looking around at where they want to go to school. So we're just very appreciative, again, of Team Boneyard, anyone that supports our the NIL for ECU.
Last question for you. Got about a minute left. Just your thoughts on, what are the real keys for this team to take the next step in your opinion with what's coming back, what's being introduced this summer? What is the next step for ECU basketball?
I think that the two things that just jump out on the table for me right now are our last two games of the year were our best 2 defensive games of the season. Now, we had some other good games in between, but we were not nearly as consistent as I know we need to be defensively to be a team where we can have, hopefully, the season that I believe we can have and that we are, working towards. So defensively, we need to be more consistent. And we need to build on what we did at the end of the season defensively. And that's going to be an area that's going to start right when they get on campus on June 4th. Understanding that because, again, no different than last year's goal, we want to be the best defensive team in this conference. And if you're the best defensive team in this conference, you're going to be one of the best defensive teams in the nation. So we got to build towards that. Big piece of that becomes defensive rebounding. So that's going to be an area that we're going to need not only Brandon to continue doing what he's doing. Ezra at one point was averaging 3 rebounds a game last year, and we had a real heart-to-heart talk midway through conference play. He finishes the season with a 19-rebound performance versus Houston. So Ezra understood late in the year how important defensive rebounding was. So between Brandon and Ezra and our guards rebounding, and then that leads us probably into the last area that is, people will say, is this a question mark of this team? What does the post play look like with 2 younger freshmen, with Sir Malanga and Callum Richard? And those 2 guys are going to have to, along with the other players doing their part, we're going to need those guys to develop quickly. But last year when Ezra was a freshman, people said he's young, and Ezra had some nice moments as a freshman. We're expecting our freshmen this year to come in and compete as well.
Coach, this was awesome. We appreciate it, man. We went almost a full hour, so thanks for your time. I know you're busy. We at least got you after the portal closed, so but we appreciate everything on today's program.
No, I appreciate you a bunch. This is awesome. This is a great setup here, and thank you for having me, Steve.
That's Mike Schwartz. Tomorrow we'll have Kim McNeil in studio. We're talking women's basketball, so join us for that. This has been a lot of fun. You've been listening to Hoist the Colours on 94.3 The Game.
This has been Hoist the Colours with your host, Stephen Igo. Tune in weekdays at noon for all things ECU sports. Get a recap of the show at 943thegame.com, on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere you get your podcasts. We're back tomorrow with more of Hoist the Colours on 94.3 The Game.
Steel professional-grade battery-powered tools. Whether you're looking for the performance to take on residential and commercial landscaping, or the power to get the job done in the forest or at the construction site, Steel has battery equipment built with pros in mind.